Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of the Lifestyle Engineering Podcast. This podcast is all about understanding what creates meaning in people's lives and how they're living their dream lives today. Today's episode is going to be one of my absolute favorites, and that's because it's with a good friend of mine, Tyler Wagner. Tyler is a digital marketing agency owner who turns authors into best-selling authors, helps them spread their message, puts them on lists like Wall Street Journal, and really helps make a splash in their lives and bring incredible content forward. He is also a podcast host who has 1,700 episodes. That's pretty insane. He is an avid connector. He knows so many people. He had Gary Vee on his podcast, among many others. And during this podcast episode, we really get to know Tyler intimately. Tyler shares the story of how he dropped out of college, how he started his business, how he wrote his book, and how his entire life unraveled. We also talk about some life optimization hacks that he has. He hires a very expensive doctor who optimizes his nutrition, his health, and makes him feel like $1 billion. And without further ado, let's have Tyler introduce himself.
My name is Tyler Wagner. I'm the founder of Authors Unite. And what we do at Authors Unite is we help people become successful authors. As you listen to this interview, you'll probably realize I'm a very simple guy. We do a lot more at Authors Unite, but simply put, we help you go from not being an author to becoming a successful one. And that's the business side. Me personally, you'll get to know in the podcast. Let's say that.
I love that. And Tyler, you run your own podcast. You've been doing it for a while. You have like a killer studio. Then you interviewed some really cool guests. Who are some coolest guests that you had?
Probably the most well known is Gary Vee. That was crazy. We got to do that one in person at his office in New York. Oren Klaff, I don't know if you know him. He wrote the book Pitch Anything. He's pretty big in the Silicon Valley area. Who else? I actually just interviewed Mark Victor Hansen. I don't know if you know that. He is like the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, like Jack Canfield. So he's a 59 New York Times bestselling author. So
59 times, man.
I know. I was like, we do good work at Authors Unite, but that's pretty impressive.
It seems like some of those folks, they just figure out the formula. They know what to do, and they just,
100%
plowing at it.
Yeah. We can dive. I'm happy to talk on that too.
Totally. Yeah. And your business, what you do is you help authors pretty much gain traction, get on the lists, and become more successful in the marketing sense. Stellar, man. I would love to learn a little bit more about kind of your upbringing, where you're from, where you grew up, and your life story.
Yeah. Oh, I love telling this. So, it's cool to look back on your life and realize like why you are who you are today, because it really is formed, throughout your daily life. So when I was younger, my dad, he still does, he has a corporate job that, let's just say, he doesn't love, let's put it that way. And I remember being younger and hearing about it a lot, you know what I mean? And you're an hour and a half commute each way. So 3 hours of driving 5 days a week, like just so crazy to me. But, that's what he did. And then at night at the dinner table, I would hear about just the things that he did not like. And I think that like got in my subconscious, and I wasn't aware of it, but it was just implanting the seed of like entrepreneurship. Like I will never work for someone ever because it doesn't look fun. It doesn't look.
How old were you when that became a thought? Because, when we're kids, we usually do not process it. We think it's normal, right? But then sometimes, that actually impacts us for the future. How old do you think you were when you actually consciously recognized that, like, you never want to be a corporate worker?
I think I'm going to guess like maybe 8 years old. Like it was young.
Damn,
like I didn't know, I don't even think I knew the word like entrepreneur at 8. So I wasn't like, I'm going to, but I just knew that the whole suit and tie corporation thing wasn't for me. So I just kind of thought I'll figure it out when I get older, is kind of what my thought was probably.
So you kind of knew what you did not want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's huge lesson in that, right? Because for my whole life, it's just trial and error of things. And I think you're probably similar in that. Like I just try a bunch of things, and if they break, I fix it. And if I like it, I keep moving more towards that. If I don't, then I move away. But you don't know until you really experience it. So I go to school, and basically, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I still go to school, and 2 years in, it just hits me after I read the 4 Hour Work Week. And I
You
basically,
read it in school.
no. I separately, like, it was recommended. I would like school a lot more if they recommended that book. But I read it, and it just changed my whole mindset. Like, I feel like it equipped me with all the tools that I needed. Like, it put belief in myself that I could succeed in starting my own thing. So then I drop out, and then I start reaching out to all these conference coordinators and asking them if I can come to their events for free in exchange for, like, helping them do something, like set it up, get
Like
sponsors,
volunteering at events, right?
volunteering. Yeah. And dude, surprisingly enough, I mean, it worked almost every time. Like, and literally the first one that said yes was an event called Mastermind Talks. And I think I told you about this. And Tim Ferriss was one of the keynote speakers at that event. So I got to meet Tim like 6 months after reading the 4 Hour Work Week, which anybody that's read that book realizes that, you know, I was a complete fanboy. Like, I was just like, dude, you changed my life, man. Like, and I don't know. So that was my way of learning, because I was not in school. So I just read books and basically got into conferences for free and found mentors. And then I wrote a book, and then that turned into Authors Unite. There's a little bit more in there if you want me to go deeper, but essentially.
I'd love to learn more about how you made the decision to drop out of school. I personally
Oh,
dropped
yeah.
out of school as well in the 9th grade.
Yeah.
And,
dude, that's incredible. Good for you. I wish I did. High school was fun for the parties, but the schooling was. So how I decided, though, is I feel like I had this, like, crystal clear vision of what my life would be like if I stayed in school. And what it came to me is that I would work at a corporation. Like, everything that I didn't want to be is what school was trying to mold me into. And it took me 2 years to, like, figure that out, and $80,000 in debt. But once I did, I was like, let's go. So then it was, to summarize, it was to the point where I realized I would rather, like, live on a friend's couch or something, or, like, live at my parents', or, like, live on the beach outside, literally, than work at a corporation. And once I realized that, I was like, that's the real mindset of an entrepreneur, of, like, I knew I would do whatever it took, because the other option is, like, so terrible to me that I'd rather just be, like, I don't know, like, outside, you know? So yeah, that's what it was.
it's really interesting when we have, like, something that we know we do not like and we know we want to avoid, even though if it is a traumatic thing, or but we still kind of are driven towards another vision. Like, for myself, I knew that I wanted to do nothing with my, high school classmates. I wanted to be driven as far as possible from kind of that mentality, like video games, just, messing around. And I literally, like, flew to another country, to the United States, learned the language. I was like, okay, I'm just going to start a business. I wanted to be around people who are open-minded and who are willing to take risks and who are curious about life. And that's why for me, I really appreciated having, like, the also, like, just the risk taker mindset and being surrounded by risk takers.
And I think the mindset too for me was, like, it starts to become, like, more of a risk to not take the risk. Like, that's what, because again, I had that vision of me at, like, 50 and just, like, having regrets. And I was like, dude, I, like, felt it in my heart. I was like, I know this path might be, like, secure, but I just can't. I know I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror if I take it. So I had to take the risk and start a bit. But you know what I mean? I think it would have been a bigger risk to go down that path, thinking retrospectively,
How did you make the decision?
So look, I'm fortunate enough that, my parents do, well enough that I have the ability to fail and still land in, like, a pretty nice house with a pool and stuff. So, I mean, it wasn't like the worst case scenario. And I learned that from, actually, dude, it all comes back to the 4 Hour Work Week. In the 4 Hour Work Week, he talks about fear, and he talks about the worst case scenario. And that, when you change your mindset to that, you start to realize that we kind of like imagine things to be way worse than they really are. You know, like dropping out, like it wasn't that big of a deal, really. Like it was at the time, but thinking back on it, it was like, what was the worst that could happen? I end up back at my parents', I fail, and then I decide to go back to school next year. Like, who cares? Like, whatever. Like, you lose a year of school, like whatever. But
Exactly. Yeah. It's not that you like drop out for life. You can
yeah,
come back
yeah.
anytime.
But in your head, there's so many, and it's ego too. Because I remember at that time in my life, I definitely still, that was very present. So I was like, well, all of the sophomore, I'll be with all the sophomore people, and I'll technically be a junior. You know what I mean? And it's just that, just having what other people think of me, and just all kind of bullshit stuff, honestly. You know?
Yeah. I feel like there is a culture of following a certain path, going to college
Yeah.
and, um,
Yeah, and it's kind of like I come from a small town, like an hour north of Philadelphia, so it's like everybody kind of knows everything about everybody, like that type of town. So if you didn't go to college, it was like people thought something was like you were going down a bad path. Because I remember when I dropped out, like what happened, I drop out and my friends all find out about it, and their parents start like contacting my parents, asking me if I'm like like doing drugs or, like going down a bad path. And then like 3 to 6 months later, I write the book and it becomes a bestseller. And people were like, how the heck did this kid do it? And then that got around the town, and then, it all worked out. But yeah, it's just pressure from your society, like your culture. And that's why environment, and I know you're all about this, environment is so utterly important. And that's why having something like an entrepreneur house can change the game for you and your business. Like it's crazy.
there is this idea that we do not have all that much of self-control and willpower, but the
Mm-hmm.
environment is the one that is responsible for us making decisions. So what you have control over is you have control over your environment, but the environment controls kind of the ease with which you're going to make the decisions. The easier you make for yourself to make better decisions through the environment, the more successful you're going to be, the better version of yourself you're going to be. I'm
100%.
curious, like the environment you had back then, like what did your parents think? What did your friends think at the time?
Yeah. So, and this is where I told you I'm happy to go as deep as possible. So I'll share this. Like when I look back at who I was, like 18 and younger, I cannot believe that I made it here. Like because it's, in all honesty, it was like smoking weed every day. It was drinking every weekend. The only thing I thought about was girls, alcohol, and weed from age like probably like 12. Like I started young, like 12 all the way till 18. And then 19, 20, I started to kind of phase it out, get a little more serious. And then when I dropped out, I got real serious, and was like, all right, like I'm going to make this work. So either way, but that was because that was the environment, right? And I don't blame my friends or anything like I was still making my own choices, but it was like a routine. So our routine was like, go to school. After school, what do? Smoke a blunt. You know what I mean? Like, you smoke a blunt, and then you hit up your girlfriend, or you hit up, and then you go home for dinner at 7, and then you go to bed and do it again. And then the weekend was a party. So I got into that routine, and my environment around me was in support of that, in a sense. Not that my parents were telling me like, go smoke weed, but they were okay with it. And my friends were all doing it. So it was just what it is. Now, just imagine then once I dropped out, then I actually moved into an entrepreneur house. And I don't know if I may have told you that. It was 6 other guys in Des Moines, Iowa, and 7 us together. And this proves your theory. I don't even think it's theory. It's just fact. Like your environment is way more powerful than I think you'll ever be. Like it's just, so I move into that house, dude, I'm working like 12, 14 hours a day with ease, like easy, because all of them are motivated. We all had accountability, like Google spreadsheets with what we were going to accomplish that week. And if we didn't accomplish it, we would have to like clean the house or owe somebody money. There was like high stakes, at least at that time. And
Gamified it.
yeah, gamify. And dude, and then every Sunday we would have like a house meeting, all 7 of us, and we would all go over. And if you missed a goal, the other 6 of us would and be like, dude, you said you were going to write a chapter of your book. You didn't write it. Like, what the heck happened? Like, you can't even follow what you say you're going to do.
I like that.
And dude, it works. Never missed a goal ever, because
It's ridiculous.
But but if you put me in an environment with weed everywhere, then I'll probably not hit my goals.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny, man. 25 minutes ago, I was on an accountability call. It's a daily writers group that I've put together. We have 5 people working on our books. We meet every day at 1 p.m. We write for 1 hour, and we check in and check out. So 5 minutes, we check in, we say, okay, here's the chapter I'm going to be writing today. Here's my goal. And then at the end, you say, okay, here's what I accomplished. Here's what worked, what didn't work. And it works like a clock. It's amazing. You show up every day, and when you dick around a little bit, you feel a little bit guilty about it. So you think twice before slacking off and not really working on the key priority.
Dude, 100%. And to mention this, because it's something, as you do things in life, you start to realize more things about yourself. And it's in alignment with Gary Vee. Like, I think one of the things Gary Vee said, and this is why he got a personal trainer, is that he cares more about like not letting others down than letting himself down. And I actually think that's pretty common. And that's why the accountability works so well, because if I tell myself I'm going to write an hour every day, I can let myself off the hook. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a little tired today, I'll just write for 2 hours tomorrow. But if you have every day with 4 other guys or girls in your group, dude, that's like letting them down. And I will not allow that. Like, I don't let people down. So either it's like you put yourself in this environment where you can't lose. And that's what you're doing, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, there's this idea of there's an intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Theoretically, intrinsic motivation, so your internal drive is more powerful in terms of accomplishing the results. So, but with what you mentioned in particular, accountability, it's a lot easier to have external accountability because you are less empathetic with yourself when you're an outsider. You're like, dude, I don't give a fuck. I don't care how difficult your life is. You told me what the goal is. Like, let's do it. You're the one who created the goal, not me. So I might as well keep you accountable. You mentioned the Entrepreneur House. Can you tell me how you discovered that house and how you became a part of it?
Yeah. So I discovered it through the conferences. So, when I was reaching out to these conferences, and I land at one, and one of the guys speaking at it was Dane Maxwell. He runs this company called The Foundation. You may or may not have heard of him, but pretty successful guy. And he spoke on stage, really resonated with me. I was 20 years old, freshly dropped out. And I can't remember how, like, I've just always been so open. So somehow I ended up talking to him. Like, after the event or something, I started talking to him. And he's like, yeah, one of my roommates is moving to Miami, oddly enough, for modeling, to model. So I have an extra room, and we have an entrepreneur house. And I was like, oh, dude, like, I'm interested. Like, how much is the rent? And I'm like 80 grand in debt at the time. So I got like nothing. And he was like, $400. And I was like, $400. I was like, I think I could make $400 a month, So I hit up my parents, and I was like, yo, I think this is my next move. And I actually got a remote job that was paying me $2,000 a month. It was kind of like, it's like advertising. I was working underneath a bigger company. And so that $2,000 a month covered all my expenses, food, the rent, and everything. And then at the same time is when I was working on my book while I was at and I honestly, to this day, I always say, if I wasn't in that entrepreneur house, I don't know if I would have been able to write the book, because I'm such an outgoing person. Like, I needed that house to force me to write it. And I would be stuck in my room writing. It was, it was a game changer. Without it, I wouldn't be where I am.
What was your book about?
So the first book's about networking. So it all comes, so it's called Conference Crushing. And it's about how I did what I did to go to these conferences, and also what I recommend you do at conferences to maximize your ROI at them.
That's stellar, man. And it seems like you were an expert in that at the time.
Yeah, it was like natural. It's always been natural to me, you know. Like writing a book was one of the hardest things I ever did because I had to be all by myself and like. But you tell me, you know, with the podcast, I've done almost 2,000 interviews. You tell me to do like 20 to 50 phone calls or interviews in a day, and I'm like lit up like a light bulb. You know, like I'm like,
That's
let's go.
ridiculous. Do you do multiple podcast episodes a day or something? That's
Yeah,
ridiculous. 2000.
almost. Yeah, I think we're at like 1,700 or something. So we're getting.
When did you start your podcast?
That was like two and a quarter, 2 years and a quarter, 2.5 years,
That's
something like that.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's around 750 days ago.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you got 1,700 episodes.
Yeah, we're averaging 2 a day or like 3 a day or something. I'm
Yeah,
bad
that's
at math.
ridiculous.
I'm not good.
And conference crushing, did it have a
Yeah.
chapter on how to get into conferences for free?
Yeah, I think I did mention it in there.
Yeah.
Basically, and when you get a little bit older, I think it doesn't work as well. But it, you know, it was coming from an authentic place. Like I was just like, I'm 20, I just dropped out, I'm 80K in debt, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I don't have 10K for your event, but I do have sweat equity. I will do whatever you want. Just let me like, and it works because people want to help other people. It's like a natural thing. So it's worth it.
Yeah, man. It's really nice how like giving you were in terms of sweat equity. For me, I'm not super proud of it right now, but I just crashed every major conference I could go to. So what I
That's
would do is I
awesome.
would go to Eventbrite and I would sort the conferences, for example, for like startups by price. And I would find the
Okay.
most expensive conferences because they would attract kind of the most successful people. And I would
Yeah.
see anything I would be interested in, and I would, because they have all of the data, all the locations, and I know that volunteers usually kind of dick around a little bit, and they do not enforce whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would just show up, listen in, and talk to people. And I ended up in one conference. So I did a similar hack with Eventbrite. Again, went online, and then there
Yeah.
was a private conference. I'm not sure why I could discover it. There was a private conference. I'm not going to say what it was called, but it was at the Ritz Carlton in where is it, like in Northern California. It's one of the most iconic Ritz Carlton
Yeah.
hotels, and it was just beautiful gold field, on a cliff. And it was for kind of the peak performers in the corporate world, and also just in the world in general, venture capitalists. There were about 200 people. They hand selected all of the 200 people to be a part of the conference. Billionaires,
Mm.
guys who run, really major nonprofit organizations. And I just showed up. And then at some point, because the guy, the organizer, knows everybody, because they picked every single person, and I showed up. I already made friends with everybody. I was already kind of a part of it, and which made me feel, to be honest, a little bit guilty. But then the guy
Yeah.
talked to me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I know you're not a part of it. What's up?" And I just like honestly, authentically told him, "Hey, dude, this is this is just an amazing opportunity. I don't want to, you know, take anything away from it.
Yeah.
I just want to contribute. So if there's anything I could do, anything anything I could do would be amazing."
Yeah.
Anyways, so at that conference, I met a guy. He is the president of New York Public Library, the second largest library in the world. Big philanthropist, and yeah, that's how I kind of made a few mentors
Yeah.
of mine through crushing conferences.
Yeah.
Conferences were a major influence in my
That's,
life. Man, I was like 19 years old, just hustling. I didn't have money to pay for
yeah.
any of that. I just wanted to be surrounded by success. I was like so hungry. And to be very honest, like today, I miss how hungry I was when I was 18 or 19 years old, because then
Mhm.
I just wanted to be successful no matter what.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would let nothing, dude. Like I made like multiple 20-hour drives from like, dude, I was going all over the place. It was crazy, dude. Like, but I know what you mean, and to even emphasize more on the surroundings, that's actually one of the reasons why I love Miami, is because it is so like it just, you feel success in the air. You know what I mean? Just like everything about it is just so, I don't know. I feel when I'm there, I'm just like, I can't lose here. Like, it's the energy there is so good. The view is amazing. It's perfect. So if you can get yourself in a place like that, it's really good. And the people, it's every part of the environment. But I will tell you, like, Iowa for 6 months out of the year is pretty shitty. It's not fun. So
Cool. So how long did you stay in the entrepreneur house?
yeah, so I stayed for 6 months. And then that other person actually that was doing the modeling in Miami, he decided he wanted to come back. And they didn't like kick me out. It was actually a choice. But then I decided that I went to this event in San Diego and I met a bunch of other people at this conference. And then from there, I decided to move in San Diego. And that's I actually stayed on a friend's couch for like, I can't remember. It was like 3 or 4 months. And then from there, though, business just started to like pick up a little bit. And I had enough to get, not a great place in San Diego. It's a pretty expensive area, but a pretty shitty place in San Diego. So that's yeah.
That's something. How long did it take you to write the book?
I think it took about 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months of about like an hour every morning. And that's including like all the editing. I had an editor as well. And yeah, I'd say from start to finish about 3 months to like publish the book. So the whole process.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a shorter book, just to be fair. It's probably like 60 to 70 pages. It was like 12 to 15,000 words. So it wasn't that, it wasn't that big.
And what inspired you? What gave you drive to write a book? Because it's pretty ridiculous. Before you were kind of smoking weed, drinking, partying, hanging out with girls, and then you literally drop out of school and do something as crazy as writing a book, which people usually think about when they're 50, 60 years old.
Yeah. So for me, I knew myself well enough at that point. I knew I wanted to do public speaking because it's just being around a lot of people is just natural for me. So this whole quarantine thing is freaking weird, but either way, so I knew that. And my mentors told me, you're a 20-year-old dropout, 80 grand, you have no expertise at all. So you should write a book on a topic that you feel that you're good at, and then, do research as well. Because the thing about writing a book is like, say you're not an expert on something, when you write a book about something, you become an expert by the end because of all the research and time that you put into writing it. So that's what I did. And then I started to get booked here and there, not a bunch, maybe like a dozen conferences booked me to speak. And I actually would open up the conference and teach my networking principles. And then the conference would like officially kick off after my welcoming speech, if you will. So I did about a dozen of those. And then what took off quicker was helping people with books, because I was just getting flooded with questions, like just like the question you asked, like, how did you go from what you were to a best-selling author? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then I helped a few people for free, and then I started to charge for it, basically.
Damn. And were you speaking for free in the beginning, or were you?
Yeah, so a couple were free, and then I was getting paid up to $3,000 for an hour keynote, which was at the time, you're talking like $400 a month rent. I mean, I was like, yo, I got rent for the year, baby. I'm rich. So
how old were you then?
That was so my first, I think I was 3 months into it was right after the book came out. The first event booked me. It was actually, I didn't reach out to them. And that, like, dude, I think of things like a numbers game. Like, if you reach out to 100 influencers to have them on your podcast, one is going to say yes, at least. So but this guy found my book through the launch and then asked if I would speak at his event. And that was, so I was still 20, I think. I was like almost 21. First talk.
That's ridiculous. All of a sudden, you were 20 years old, speaking at conferences, charging $3,000 per 1 hour talk.
Yeah. And actually, what happened too, and at the time, I didn't have a website or a package for this, but a few people actually paid me to coach them on how to network at events. So I was doing like one-on-one, and when this all first starts happening, I was like mind blown. I was like, holy crap, like, momentum. That's what I always tell people. Like the beginning is the hardest. Once you have some momentum, it's actually just, I don't think it's as hard because it's like this rhythm, like harmony, like you're just in it. So I land my first like coaching and speaking gig. I have like, let's say 5K in my account at that time or something, but it was still 5K. Like at the time, 5K was like opportunity. I was like, oh, I can breathe, you know? Um, so either, I don't know, I just think like that first client, that first book sale, that first talk, those are always the hardest. Once you get them, momentum really swings, and then it just takes you on a ride. That's my experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. For me, I've been doing a little bit of research on motivation, and there's this idea behind motivation that in order to get motivation,
Yeah.
you need to kickstart it with action. So through having small wins,
Mm-hmm.
you feel accomplished, and then you have more energy to take more action, and that action gives you more results. And it's just a cycle that starts with action, then you get motivation, and then the momentum pretty much propels you forward and you feel unstoppable. Where most people fail, including myself in many points of my life, I wasn't feeling motivated, so I wasn't doing anything. I was just like, oh, I'll just do it whenever I have more energy, whenever I feel more motivated. It's like, no, like if you feel unmotivated, you got to start doing stuff. And
Yeah.
through action, you'll start feeling inspired. You'll start feeling like you're progressing.
Oh, 100%. And I actually, a guy, do you know Brad Lee? He does Lightspeed VT, virtual
Nope.
train. He's pretty big influencer that does like, he creates membership portals for people. So like Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, like some
Mm.
pretty big names. And he did a video yesterday, and he was saying where most people fail is that they make goals that are, I don't want to say they're too big, but they like in the short term, they're too big. So it's like, I want to be a runner. So then the person's like, tomorrow and every day I'm going to run 10 miles. And then after a couple days, they give up because it's not sustainable. So he was like, no, what you do is you measure your steps. You took 1,000 steps yesterday. Tomorrow, take 1,001. Just get one more. And
Mm.
that's a win. That's a win. And then that picks up momentum, and then you can go bigger. And to fully come full circle, when you have accountability partners and you have like stakes, if you do not do what you say you're going to do, that really helps you zone in on goals that are actually accomplishable, if that's a word. And because, I think it's a natural thing. Like you're like, I want to write a book in a week. I want to get this book done. And it's like, well, what can you do today? Like that, you can do. And, so either way, just starting smaller, getting the wins, like you said, and then you can get to that big, 6, 7, 8-figure business or whatever. But I don't like starting with that goal, because it's hard. It's unobtainable without momentum, in my opinion.
So in your story, again, you wrote the book, it became a bestseller. You started speaking. It seemed like the road was paved for you to be successful. Kind of looking back, what goal did you have, or did you have a vision for what you wanted out of life?
Yeah, so I think my number one driving force is freedom. I really think that's what it is. Like I, even to this day, like, even though I run my own companies, whenever even just somebody like says for me to do something, it like just bothers me. Like I feel a gut check, and
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you. Like I'm not doing it just because you told me to do it. So I think it's freedom. And then once I had the freedom, then it became more about helping others get that freedom, and that's how it is with books for me. Is like when I held my first book, it felt just incredible, because you put so much time and effort into it. And then the final product, like, for me, it was 3 months. For a lot of people, it's like a year. So it's even like more, but you hold it. So every time I work with a client, I kind of replay that feeling, but it's with them.
Hmm.
And it's just exciting, and it's like, it's a big event. So yeah, freedom, and then helping others get freedom.
Did you have
Is
any
what's,
measurable goal? Did you want to become
oh,
a
measurable.
trillionaire? Drive a
Um,
Lamborghini, shoot video courses on how to make money?
what's funny, man, is that's one thing that I don't think I'm the best at, to be completely honest, is like, a lot of my mentors are like, dude, you have to have measurable goals. And from a financial standpoint, I've never really had like, I need to make this amount of money. For me, it's just always like, I need to make enough money to live the life that I want to live, like freedom. And, you know, for me, that really actually happened at about 10K a month. Like once I made 10K a month, I was like, this is like my base. Like I'm good here. And you know, I've made more than that now over the years, but like for me, 10K a month, I realized my lifestyle in Miami, you know, at the rent price, literally a penthouse for 3K a month. I was like, you can live in a penthouse in Miami and buy pretty much whatever you want within reason, making 10K a month. Like, and that's, that's a good life, you know?
Yeah,
So,
Tim Ferriss has this exercise. It's called the dreamlining, which is in the
okay.
4-hour work week, and he pretty much outlines, okay, here, what lifestyle do you want to live, and then how much is it going to cost you, and then he kind of reverse
Yeah.
engineers. Okay, so in order to live your dream life, you need to pretty much make this much money. So how can you do it? And that is one of the approaches. So for you, you realize that 10K, you're super happy, you're feeling free, and lifestyle is at
Yeah, I
a
will
great
tell
level.
you that that number probably doubles or triples once like family comes into play, like once I want to have kids. But as just like a single guy in Miami, like being an entrepreneur and having fun, 10K is plenty, honestly. You know, like any more than that, you might get in some trouble. You know, so
Cool. So
yeah,
people ask you how you wrote the book that became a bestseller, how you started
yeah,
speaking, and it seems like the book became the platform for your success
yeah.
overall. What was next? What was next in your professional life?
Yeah. So, you know, once I realized how many people wanted to write books, like that's when it really hit, is when a bunch of people started asking me like how I did what I did. Like there was hundreds of them were asking, and I was just giving advice for free, really. And then I took on a few people as like clients for free in exchange for a testimonial. And then from there, like now we've helped almost 1,000 authors. So that's been my main focus, and it's been mostly with like done for you services. So what I've been working on lately, as you know, you might know, is I've been trying to incorporate some more passive type of things, like courses, and even I'm a partner in a SaaS product that helps authors, because I've always been just high ticket, like a kind of like a luxury item for authors,
Hmm.
anywhere from 5K all the way to 50. And we were actually talking about that before, like to start, and even not just to start, like forever. And one of my mentors actually said this. He's like, if you want to make $1 million, offer something for $1 million. Like, do you have an offering on your website for $1 million? And everybody in the audience, this was like a small mastermind, and everybody was like, no. And he's like, well, that's why you don't have $1 million. You know, he's kind of, you know, fucking with you, but it's true. So I was like, okay, like there, and dude, I can just tell you this, like from my experience, all my clients that have paid me at the 50K level for that service that we offer, I've never had a problem ever. My whole, like now at the 5K, as far as just like customer experience goes, like we've never actually had somebody at the end of working with us like be mad or anything, but I find them to be more needy. You know, like they're more at the a couple hundred to like 50K, dude. If somebody's paying you 50K, dude, they're chill. Like
they,
they're
they
like,
have a bigger fish to fry. They have
yeah,
bigger problems
yeah.
to worry about for sure.
Yeah, so I just think it's actually people get it's I think people it's hard for them to even ask for that amount of money when they're first starting out. But just from experience, I can tell you, like, I think you should start out with high ticket, because then it's less people. You can deliver a way better experience. You know, it's actually easier to deliver a 50K service than a 5K service, from my experience. Um,
which is pretty much completely redefining what we conventional humans think about, and like what it is to run a business. In kind of business one-on-one, every business does a number of things. A business creates value and the business captures value. So you create maybe $1,000 worth of value, and then you might charge 30% of the value created, which is I guess $300 in
yeah.
this example, right? Then the question is, in the beginning, when you were just starting out, your value creation would probably be not as good
Mhm.
as down the line.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
reason with that?
So I didn't start at 50. You know, that's what's funny is like it became, it was almost like I was forced to figure it out because of the demand. You know, because remember too, like, and I know you know this, but like 8 years ago, like Facebook organically, things went way more viral than they do now. You know,
True.
like,
Yeah.
so dude, when I remember my post when I posted when I was 20 and I hit bestseller, I think it got like over 100 shares and like 500, 600, 700 likes or something. And that was organic, like no ad spend, just like a post. So, you know, the demand was coming in, and I just, in all honesty, yeah, I kind of just made up a number. Like I was like, how much time is this? And I didn't actually measure it on time. I was like, what would I want somebody to pay me to do this? And at the start, I kept with that $3,000 number. I think I kept with $3,000 subconsciously because three is my
Yeah.
favorite number. But the guy that I coached for the conference, it was, you're smiling about something. It was, I just was like $3,000. And then like I started coaching people on the book publishing and book marketing. And I was like, you know, we're looking at a bi-weekly call of 30 minutes for the next 3 months. I don't know, $3,000. And they were like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, if people
So
are paying for it, then they want to get the result that you were promising them to
yeah,
deliver. So it showed with me, you know, if people pay, then and if you deliver, then
yeah.
there's no problem. Absolutely. And if people still coming in, then you need to start charging more. The reason I was smiling is because one of my first consulting clients, man, I charged him $5,000. I literally,
That's
that was
awesome.
I think that was my first consulting client. I've never done consulting before, and you know, I wasn't making all that much money, to
Yeah.
be honest. So being broke and charging $5,000 a month
Oh
for
man, no, no, I didn't do
a month
that.
for a few sessions, it was kind of ridiculous, and it ended up working out, and that completely changed my mindset in terms of the value creation. Like, we did deliver a pretty good work and a lot of value for the person. So
Yeah. Yeah, if you can, you know, I would definitely, I don't price myself on a time basis. Like I like to price it on like like the actual value that they're going to get. So, but yeah, in the beginning, it really was kind of just like get like $3,000, like what about five, you know, and then I did start to charge five probably after a year or two of three, got a little pushback, and then, you know, you keep, and then at this point, our highest option's 50. So, you know, it grows from there. But that's awesome, dude. That's a 5K a month, the first one.
yeah, that's
I
funny.
didn't get any
Yeah,
like
I was a three
subscriptions.
months retainer. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
no.
we were living in a villa in Mexico, you know, before, so it was like it was perfect. It was amazing
That's
lifestyle.
amazing.
Can you tell me about how consulting turned into an agency when you started hiring people? You know, how long things took you, like all that jazz.
Yeah, yeah. So some people, from what I've seen people teach, some people say they go a different direction. But I found coaching or consulting to be, I couldn't figure out how to scale it. You know, so what happened to me is I don't, I think at my peak, you know, I had like 20, 30 coaching clients you know, at one time, and that would continue to grow over months. But like it became so confusing, demanding, and I'm naturally like a giver. So even though I was like, you're going to pay me 3K, we're going to have this call at this time every other week. If they wanted to have another call, I would never say no. It's just so it just became like, essentially, I think I probably hit like low six figures at that level. And then I was like, I'm dying. Like I can't move. So then I switched over to done for you. And that's when I actually started to hire some people. And we still do done for you. Like our 5 to 50K is done for you. And
Kind
I
of the
find,
agency model.
yeah, yeah. And you know, some people say that doesn't scale. In my opinion, it does. You know what I mean? Like it's, you have to keep hiring more people. You know what I mean? It's not as lean as like a course, but you know, it does in fact scale, right? It's just, I don't know, you need the right systems in place. Coaching, you need to do like Tony Robbins, right? You need to have like coaches underneath the coach. And I don't know, to me that I was just like, oh man, that seems like kind of very just
Building
difficult.
your MLM,
Yeah,
multi-level marketing,
yeah. I was
doing a
like,
whole system. There are many ways to do it, man, but agencies certainly scale. There are agencies that have over
yeah,
1,000 employees, so
exactly.
it's not a good argument. And there are also
Yeah,
businesses that they're pretty lean and have consultants under kind of the main guy.
exactly. So, and that was, so yeah, done for you. That's what really scaled our business. And that's what we've been doing probably for the past 5 years. I think we've been doing it for 8 years. So first 3 years. And then I really just have a bunch of virtual assistants, and then I have a bunch of people to fill all the different spots. So like virtual assistants for, back to the 4-hour work week, they're more for like, what do you call it? Like just tasks, you know what I mean? Like little
Hmm.
tasks here and there. But then I have like very high quality book designers, right?
Yeah.
And how I did that is I just basically started connecting with people in the industry and like testing them out over the years, and then just kind of keeping the best of the best underneath the Authors Unite umbrella. So they can still do other work. Like they're not technically an employee, but that's what I did. So designers, editors, ghostwriters, and then marketing is what we're most well known for. So our team, it's hard for me to say because it's probably like 20, 30 people that I will outsource to. And then
Hmm.
virtual assistants, it's like I think four full-time virtual assistants.
Yeah, and how did your life change? It seems like you were kind
Oh,
of burnout, having like too
yeah.
many phone calls. You transitioned to done for you. What changed?
Dude, it gave me freedom to work on other things like passively, right? Because it was like, okay, here's the process for building like SOPs, I guess that's what they call them. So it's like for the 5K package, here's the process. My internal team knows what it is. So as soon as the client pays, I'll still be, I use Basecamp. By the way, Basecamp is unbelievable in my opinion.
What's your affiliate link URL?
I don't know,
What is
actually,
it?
dude. I don't know. I should have one because it changed from organization standpoint. There's no way like without it I could do what I do.
Yeah, for those of you who do not know, SOP
Yeah.
is a standard operating procedure. And
Mhm.
essentially, what agency owners do is that they create a process that is streamlined, that is designed to deliver a certain result consistently. Once you build that process, repeating that process and delegating that process to your employees, virtual assistants becomes super easy because they just need to literally follow the steps, and you become the master creator who gets to see the big picture, optimize it, and you can just drive as many clients through the process, and it doesn't require more of your time. A lot of the people,
Yeah,
when you're more of like a freelancer doing stuff yourself, then you're just busy, you're kind of in the trenches all the time, but that never scales. In order to liberate yourself
Mhm.
from being kind of a slave to your business, you got to build a really good process that works. And it's really
100%.
cool. It's really cool that you discovered it. I'm actually working right now on a program that does systems design,
Really?
because yeah, I feel like I
That's
really
cool.
cracked the code a little bit for my organization of around 20 people. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't need to work more than, I know, 5-10 hours a week. And
Yeah.
so for you, how do you figure out that you need to build systems?
Yeah, so it really just, I feel like everything came out of necessity. So coaching, I like to grow. And I think Tony Robbins, whether he's right or wrong, he says growth is one of the things that like leads to happiness and like fulfillment in
Hmm.
people. And I know that's true for me. So even though at the time I'm like, I guess I was like 21, 22, making six figures, I already had my freedom like that. I still was like, okay, well, what do I do? Just chill at the beach all day and do nothing? Like, I need more than that. Like, I actually like to work. Like, I
Did you
don't
do a
know.
little bit of chilling though? Come on, be
No,
honest.
I did it for, yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, I was
you,
like,
you gotta experience it. You gotta test that out first.
yeah, dude, I'm living in like this small beach town in like Encinitas, Solana Beach area, like La Jolla right near there. And I'm like, I made it. But it got old real quick though, honestly. Like it just, for me, it did. And then when we did Done For You and transitioned to that, I noticed the same thing started to happen a little bit where, because I wasn't consulting, but the clients had questions, along the way. Obviously, like they want to be, they want to be in tune with like what's going on. So then that started to take up all my time, just like customer support. They're like, hey, how's the launch coming? Or like, how's the book cover coming? And I had to basically, what started happening is I would have to reach out to the designer, and the designer would give me the feedback. Then I'd have to take the feedback and give it to the client. And I was like, dude, this is like, I'm like, it's too much. It's a web, it's a mess.
That's right.
And then, and then I started to hire virtual assistants and, create the SOPs. And then they all took care of that for me. And it would only get up to me if they couldn't answer it. And if they couldn't answer it, that became an SOP, like another part, and then eventually you do that long enough. And, it gets to a point where it's not very often that you're even needed because there's so many SOPs, just type it in.
That's really smart. And this is what every single 7-8 figure entrepreneur I know does. They build these processes. For you, you haven't worked for anybody before. How did you figure that shit out?
Oh man, I wish I think I actually heard it from is, do you know Dan Martell? Have you ever heard of him?
No.
So he's big. He created this thing called Clarity.fm. It's really cool. I think you might know about that.
Oh yeah, I know Clarity.fm.
Yeah. So he created that.
Binaural beats.
Yeah, dude, it's amazing. And he's more of like a tech entrepreneur. And I feel like I remember when I was younger, because I actually met him at a conference when I was 20 years old as well. And he was talking about how you can build systems and businesses to scale them. So it was just like in my head a little bit. And again, I think the reason it all happens is I just push things to their limit. And then once I realize, I'm like, dude, I can't work anymore at this level. So the only way for me to grow is to figure something else out. And then it forces me to do it. I just keep pushing until it breaks. And then I'm like, all right, let's fix it up.
That's funny. This is exactly my approach as well. I bite more than I can chew, and then and I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I actually execute on it successfully? It's like, okay, well, I need more people, I need better processes, and all that stuff.
Exactly.
I think for me as an entrepreneur, the most difficult part was kind of changing in the identity of like me having to grind and hustle in order to be successful, and starting to delegate work as a pathway to success. Like if you're busy working crazy hours, then you're not realizing your most potential. So like delegating and doing less was actually a path to success. Which was another counterintuitive thing in the world of just professional work.
Yeah. And I think I'm curious, like what your typical week looks like, because I think it would be good for people to know. So for me, it's not that I work less. It's just that I'm more working on the business instead of in it. And I'm sure, you've heard that before. So like my typical week is like, podcasting, and then some sales calls, and then partnership calls. Like that's all I do. Like it's nothing inside. And then it's also once a week, what I also do is try to figure out like different things that we can be offering to add value. So that's like the courses, the SaaS product. And then really lastly, my latest thing that I'm trying to figure out is more investing. So I put off financial literacy my whole life. And, once you start to make money and you have cash sitting in the account, and then you write your first big like check to the government, and it breaks your heart, then again, it forced me to be like, and you realize of inflation that the money in your account is actually losing value every day.
Yeah.
So either way, that's a whole nother game then that, it's a good problem to have at the end of the day. But I'm just saying, it's like, once you make money, your next thought is like, okay, how do I actually multiply this money? Because if I leave it in the bank, that shit's going to be gone. Like that's just the way it is. Like, so
it's funny. The motivation is loss aversion. Knowing that you're kind of missing out, paying the government what you could have reinvested tax free, right? Yeah. And then it's like, okay, that's the driver.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always like push as hard as you can go, and then, but yeah, I don't. That first big it's just I don't even want to talk about taxes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of switching gears from business? Because you
Yeah,
and we've been
I
masterminding
know.
on
Well,
marketing and business. We can dive as deep as possible into it.
I know.
But can you tell me a little bit about your lifestyle? How do you
Yeah.
recover? How do you have fun? Do you travel?
Oh yeah. So on our last call, I told you about, I should talk about the doctor. So because I'll be open about all this. Like it'd be
That's
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because dude, so at the end of the day, your most valuable asset is yourself. And not that everybody needs to hear all about this, but I started to realize like I was having these bad stomach pains for like a while. And then my normal doctor under insurance was doing absolutely nothing for me. So I was like, I just bit the bullet and I hired this amazing doctor in Miami. That's, it's pretty expensive. At the end of the day, it'll probably cost like $30,000 a year to like, keep working with him. But it has changed my life, like just unbelievable results. And it found out that I'm gluten intolerant and that my testosterone was low. So either way, he's got me on this whole thing to like optimize me as a human physically and mentally. And just that alone has changed the landscape of my business because my energy is so much greater and I feel good.
What type of doctor is
Uh,
it? What's the
so
title?
he calls it lifestyle medicine. So I don't know. It's not covered under insurance. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, man.
So,
The funniest thing is a lot of the problems, they come from lifestyle. A lot of health problems come from lifestyle,
yeah,
right? Like how we eat and all of those things. And we're talking about, I think on the last call, that it's easier for doctors just to put you in the bucket, prescribe you a bunch of pills and not
yeah,
look at you as a holistic like human being. Like, do you meditate? Are you stressed out? How's your sex life?
100%. Yeah, no, dude, totally. And that's what I was like. That's what kept happening is I would go to the doctor, and it was more like a black or white thing. They're like, okay, what's your pulse? All right, you're living, dude. You just have a stomach ache. Take some Tums. Like you're fine. But turns out, dude, I've been eating pizza and shit my whole life, and I'm gluten intolerant. So like my stomach was torn apart. Like you can't do,
Mm.
but I would have never found out literally with the normal. So I don't know, that wasn't your full question, but I just say like my foundational focus, like health comes before anything, really, before business, before anything,
Hmm.
because you don't have anything without health. So
No,
I don't know.
absolutely,
Yeah.
man. Like if you have more energy, that's what also distinguishes peak performers from regular performers or people who are struggling, is thinking about yourself as an asset. If you put in good ingredients, then you will
Mhm.
be able to have more energy and your output is going to increase. It doesn't mean that it's going to cost you so much more money or that people need to sign up to that doctor to whom you
Yeah,
need to
no,
have
no.
an affiliate link as
I
well.
know.
30,000,
I
because the way you speak about it is ridiculous. Uh,
know.
yeah, but yeah, $30,000 a year is not an investment that a regular person can make. But I
Yeah.
think it's about the intention, investing in yourself, investing into your energy, figuring out what drains your energy when you eat and what gives you more, and just being having an experimental mindset. I think that's really
100%.
important, because at the end of the day, I know you're having a like personalized nutrition plan. You have a
Yeah.
personalized pills, I think. Well,
Yeah,
what are you
like
doing?
medicine. Yeah,
What
no,
is
no,
it?
I can tell. Yeah, so
You
it's
do
like
IV?
nutrition. Yeah. So IV therapy. If you've ever, my mom actually said she saw it on the Kardashians. So if you've ever seen like people, usually really wealthy people, after they drink, the next day they'll get IV therapy because it like cures your hangover quicker. So, but if you do it actually on a regular basis, like once I do it like once a week or once every 2 weeks. It depends. But it's just like vitamins that go right into your bloodstream, and then just make sure, because really it's all about like balancing. You know what I mean? So it's like you base everything off your blood. So you give your blood test comes back, and mine was basically like your stomach is fucked up, your testosterone's low, and I was like low in one of the vitamins. So he was like, okay,
Mm,
here's your customized plan. So you can get
yeah.
your testosterone optimized, your stomach fixed up, and your vitamin K back to, and you don't want to have more, right? Because if you have too much, it's in some levels that can be bad too. So I know for the normal person, it's not really ideal. So, but really you can, without the blood test results, you could still kind of feel like, what does it feel like? And
Yeah.
that's what I remember going back,
Mm.
like, why were things so difficult for me when I was younger? Well,
Yeah.
probably because I was high and drunk all the time. So if you do that every day, then you wake up, you're foggy and you have
Yeah.
no clarity at all. Dude, when you're optimized health wise and you're not drinking or like doing any sort of like mind altering things, the clarity that you can have is nuts. Like things are so clear to me now. Like it's
What was
not
the
hard.
impact on your business and in your life of doing this therapy?
Oh yeah. So I'm a runner. Like I love to run, and I was like having to like cut runs like dramatically short because my stomach would kill me after like
Mm.
1 or 2 miles. So like now I'm like fully optimized again. Run like 6 miles average every morning. Lifting weights, that tends to happen when your testosterone boosts up a little bit. You actually kind of enjoy it. It's a little
No, I've done the same experiment, man. So and also Tim Ferriss's for our body, he has a chapter on testosterone, and
Oh,
I
he
was
does? I forgot about that.
yeah, he does. You should revisit it.
Yeah.
He has this section. What was I doing? I was eating a bunch of red meat. I was
Oh,
eating
okay.
mussels. Is it? Yeah. So I was just eating all of the things that would give me a lot of testosterone, and I felt like a primal animal. I was like super horny, super focused as well, super
Yeah.
focused. I was ready to run. I was ready
Yeah.
to lift things. I had so much energy, and that actually came from nutrition.
Yeah. 100%. All those things are definitely accurate. And yeah, I definitely advise like, if you're going to boost your testosterone, you want to have, whatever you like, guy or girl, like definitely have some of those, that you're talking, because without it, the hormones are a little wild. Like it's a little, I find it to be a little bit intense. So either
Totally.
way.
Yeah, but we're coming back to experimentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just try a new behavior, try a new lifestyle, and then once you try it, you can say, okay, that didn't work for me, or I'm not willing to do what it takes in order
100%.
to get the results. That's okay. But if people do not experiment, then they will never know what it feels. Right now,
100%.
you will never be able. I feel like you will never be able to come back to to that exhausted, tired state because you've seen what it feels like to be in the prime.
Yeah, yeah, it's like fully, and again, it's like a balance because I think if your testosterone were to get too high, you become too like animalistic, and then it's like out of control. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like you can't even. You're basically just
It
like
can
walking
become a
around and like
distraction.
you're
Yeah.
like lifting your
I was
dead.
talking to girls all the time. That's what
Yeah.
happened to me. Yeah.
So, but the energy and focus is what I drive off, and actually, in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, I think there's a whole chapter on that. It's called like sexual mutation or transmutation,
Mm,
meaning where like you can take your sexual energy and allow it to like build up and use it as an energy force for like work, and that's where a lot of people don't, it's like hacks like that. Like a lot of
yeah.
people, if they're horny, I don't know, this is fun, we're going down a funny thing, but
No.
they relieve it, or they take care of it however they do it. But if you let it sit for days, or like even like up to a week, like you will literally build this, you'll be energetic.
Yeah,
Like for
I'm
sure.
you know, I'm right now I'm reading actually a book on masculinity, what it means to be a man and
Yeah.
all of that. And to be very honest, I feel very sad that our educational system doesn't teach you to be a man. It doesn't
Yeah.
teach you the hormones. It doesn't teach you what it feels uh, to experience, I know, lack of testosterone or
Yeah.
lots of it. We do not learn those things, and we have to uncover them. If you stumble upon I know any literature or some friends, or you hear about it somewhere, then you might be curious and then you might look into it. But it's not a common wisdom. It's not something that everybody practices. I think everybody should learn what it means to be in a man's body, to feel like a man, to act like a man, to be kind of authentic to
Yeah.
your biology, and to what it feels to be a woman as well, and
For
really
sure.
embrace that as opposed to rejecting it. I feel like what's happening is that we think that we're evolved species and we were smart and planned and well organized, but at the end of the day, a lot of our biology is designed from like thousands of years ago. And and
Mhm.
the sexual drive that in the book that you mentioned, it's a massive factor that's going to determine your motivation, your energy levels, and your view of yourself as well. So
Yeah.
just considering it is already an amazing first step.
100%. And just remember too, like really we're a lot of different things in our body, but at the end of the day, like a man is more like testosterone and a woman is estrogen. So if you are a man and you have low estrogen or low testosterone, like that can dramatically affect like how you feel, you know? So it's like the little tweaks that can actually make a huge difference in your life. So
Yeah, and some humans are
yeah,
misbalanced on the chemical level, and
exactly.
their predispositions for depression or for being low
Totally.
energy, whatever it is. And honestly, it can be an excuse for people. Oh, I just, I just have a chemical disbalance. That's why I'm not successful. That's
Yeah.
that's an easy way out. So you should avoid that as well. All right. So health is a major optimization that you've done recently. How
Yeah.
does your life look like? What is the day to day pre Corona?
Yeah. So really it's so yeah, I'll start with Monday. So Monday's podcast like all day. And usually right now I'm actually up in Pennsylvania with my family on like a farm type thing. But normally in Miami pre-corona. So in Miami at my office and doing podcasts all day. It's what I like to do. And actually when I started my podcast 2.5 years ago, let's say, that was the time that I really had like pure freedom. Like I did not have to do any tasks inside Authors Unite. The full system was developed, everything was built. And I was like, I have time to interview 2,000 people. You know what I mean? Like I have, so that's when I started it. And so that's Monday. Tuesdays are, and every morning I have a routine too. So I'm waking up, running and lifting weights now that the health is like optimized as well. And then breakfast and then work and then dinner. I usually actually skip lunch or I'll just have like a very little snack.
Mm.
Um, and then Tuesdays like sales calls and partnership calls. That's a whole nother thing we could jam it's on the business side, but um, and then Wednesday, I don't allow anybody to book calls with me. So that's my one day where it's just like straight, like creative thinking. I'm all alone in my office and I'm figuring out like, what are the next moves? How can we become better? And things of that nature. And then Thursdays, Fridays, calls all day, like 20 a day, partnership calls.
Partnership calls.
Yeah. Some sales calls in there too, but mostly
Hmm.
partnership. Yeah.
All
And
right,
then,
pretty good.
and then my actual, like, so that's the thing. I just like I like to work. So like weekends, I mean, Saturday, maybe go to the beach. I'll do my run with some friends like later in the day at South Point Park. It's a really cool spot in Miami. And then probably I like to go out to nice restaurants, right? So, I mean, I use those dating apps. This is all pre-corona. So before I would go on a few dates a week, like Bumble, Tinder, all that. Um,
Do you outsource the swiping? You
I,
gotta do it, bro. You gotta do it, man. I literally had to post on Upwork, swipe for the title was swipe for my Tinder, and I had like 20 or 30 applicants.
that's
It's a
it.
great job.
Well, dude, there's a hack for Tinder. There's actually a Chrome plugin that will automatically swipe for you. It's free.
But then
It's
you need to do like a second level of segmentation inside your
yeah,
messages
you
from the
can't
people.
fully automate it, but
Yeah,
um,
totally.
and then I obviously have some friends down there, so we'll hang out. And then so Saturday is usually the day that I unwind and take off, and then kind of like the first Sunday I work a little bit because like Monday I have podcasts all day.
Hmm.
So I don't really have time on Monday to plan and all that. I just haven't created that. So Sunday I'll do a little work and then probably relax a little bit, read something like
Half
that.
day. That's what I do. That's literally what I do.
Yeah.
Saturday, I have a full recovery day. I'm not allowed to work. On Sundays, I do calls with friends, and I also do like a little bit of work, a little bit of planning, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of personal development. So
Yeah,
just kind of half
nice.
half. What do you do on the weekdays in the evenings?
Yeah, in the evening. So again, pre-corona, I had a chef that made like pre-made meals, so it was just very easy. Um, yeah, just pop it in. It's like good though. It's like steak and all this like real good stuff.
Perfect. Yeah.
Um, and then I actually I wind down, watch a little TV. Sometimes it's not I guess not the best thing for you, but I like some Netflix here and there. But yeah, I mean, it was typically like one or two times during the week I would go on a date. I mean, I do, I like women a lot, so I would do that. I mean, and then Saturday, because you got to remember, I'm just a single guy in Miami, so it's a
It's a
couple days.
perfect place
Yeah,
to be a single guy.
yeah, it really is. Like that's a whole nother podcast. It really is. There's a whole theory behind that. It's
Yeah,
true.
man. But I can see why you are attracted to this. You know, when I was in Barcelona, living in Barcelona, I tried to spend there around 3 months in a year. And when I'm in Barcelona, I talked to some women here and there.
Yeah.
And looking back, I realized that some of my happier moments was around cool, inspiring women and just spending time with them. Like I felt incredible. And
Hmm.
that was a great learning for me. That was a great learning. I was like, okay, I want to have amazing women in my life. This is a lifestyle choice that I'm going to
Yeah.
make, and I'm going to stick to it.
Hundred
It
percent.
has to become some sort of a kind of a common practice, a routine. A lot of the times we know what makes us happy, what makes us really internally fulfilled, but we do not pursue those things, even though we know what's up. So what I do is,
Hundred
okay, I
percent.
write down things that make me happy, and I try to schedule things that make me happy in my calendar,
Yeah.
literally.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I mean, writing. I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to do like three things I'm grateful for every morning.
Mm.
I'll say I should still do it, but it was like before I had momentum, that really helped. Now that I have a lot of momentum just in
Yeah,
like my happiness in business, like I feel like I don't need it as much.
yeah, I feel you.
But I will say it's good to do like a self audit, because I think even as entrepreneurs and when we create our own schedule, we can still get caught in like ruts and we don't even realize it because we're not self auditing what we're doing. So it's like there could be weeks that go by and for some reason I'm like dragging and I'm not as happy and whatever, and I don't know why, and then I just look back, I'm like, what have I been doing oh, that's why, like, I need a break there. And that's actually how I created that Wednesday, is because I was doing calls all day. Once all the systems were built, it was every day, all day. And then I realized I started not enjoying them as much because I was getting burnt out. And now that I have that break, that Wednesday right in the center of the week, that's like my recharge. And so either way, just like self-auditing what you're doing, it helps. And a lot of people don't do that. They don't reflect on like what's happening. So
That's something that encompasses the lifestyle engineering methodology mindset, and also like what scientific method uses. Essentially, you analyze, kind of figure out what you want, then you create a plan, and then you execute, and then once you got the data, you get to analyze again. So it's a cycle. And in a
yeah.
way, when it seems like you do a lot of analysis and checking in with how you
Mm-hmm.
feel, what's going right, what's going wrong. And that's a beautiful Wednesday that you got going on. So you just have a
Yeah.
bunch of space to spend on analysis.
Yeah, and it's also like a day where I could sleep in if I want, because I don't have any appointment that I need to like be,
Yeah,
on time for. So I don't know. I really like it in the middle of the week. It's perfect.
man, it's amazing. As somebody, I do on average, I know 7 to 8 phone calls a day, and
Yeah.
when I have those days when I have nothing, I'm just like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah, yeah.
free. I feel free.
Exactly. Yeah, but and again, it's like always coming down to this balance, because I love the days with all the phone calls that just as much. But it's like having both. If you don't have both,
Yeah.
then you'll start to like not enjoy them, because you're just like so, I don't know, the balance. I think it helps.
Yeah, Also like the high contrast, I think it's awesome. Like
Yeah,
I like contrasted lives, when you're like, going crazy, partying, and then going crazy working, and then going crazy, I know, social life, whatever
100%.
it is.
So maybe like balance is actually the wrong word. I'm an extremist. Like so it's like,
Extremist, that's a better
yeah.
word. On and
So
off,
doing like, yeah,
binary.
on and off. So it's like Tuesday, 25 phone calls. Wednesday, no phone calls. And and both of them make me jazzed up. But yeah, if I just did like 4 phone calls at 7 days a week or something, I feel I would not do well
Yeah.
with that.
The idea, the kind of neuroscientific thing is like the context switching, the amount of cognitive load, the amount of energy it takes for you to switch from doing a phone call to doing regular work, is a lot. So you're exerting a lot of energy on just switching between tasks. So
Yeah.
having calls stacked up sometimes is a really good idea, and having like deep flow work that is stacked up is also a dope idea.
Yeah, and you know what I find too, and we talked about this with like podcasts and stuff about how like the length, like it should be like the longer because we're like flowing right now, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and that's what I find with like my phone calls. Like my first like 2 or 3 phone calls in a day are always like my worst because I'm not like in it yet.
Mm.
And then after that, dude, I'm just like spitting fire. I'm not trying to be narcissistic here, but dude, my fourth phone call all the way to my 20th is just, it's a beautiful, because it's just like harmony. Like I'm just like in it. But I need that like there's a couple few to get revved up. And I think a podcast is like that too. Like the first 20 minutes, you're just getting in that jazz. And then once you hit, then I don't know, you're just in it. So that's,
Totally.
yeah.
And people see it, man. Joe Rogan, his average podcast episode is probably like 2.5, 3 hours. And I feel like having that space to dive into things as you wish is
Yeah,
really beautiful. And it just creates space for people to be more at ease, more at peace, and see kind
100%.
of what comes out. I'm
Yeah.
super interested to see if you have any lifestyle hacks, anything
Yeah.
lifestyle related.
Um, so I guess for energy and obviously putting the doctor aside, for me the run every morning, like if I don't, no matter what my nutrition levels, all that, like for some reason I think I just trained myself to be this way. Running makes my whole day so much easier. Like if I do cardio in the morning, my mindset I'm just like at ease. I'm like, I did it. Like I'm good. So if I miss a run, things are off. So run every morning. And also back to the gratitude thing, even though I'm not doing it as much right now, if you just think about it logically, if you write 3 things you're grateful for every morning and every night, it's inevitable for it not to happen. Like you will literally have a force field of positivity just like in your brain always, because you're literally waking up to it and you're going to bed with it. And I think there's actually studies done on that in like colleges where like if you study the night before when you sleep, it gets like ingrained in your brain rather than if you try to like put it all in right before the test.
Yeah.
So, even at night, I almost think at night it's even more important because it's like you are literally conditioning your brain for what it's going to be like during your whole 8 hours of sleep. So you want to get down in the subconscious. And again, I don't know how all this really works, but I just know that it does because I did it before. So I'd say, doing that, stacking, and that's what we were talking about in business. So it's like all the calls in one day, no calls in another day. Also like in environments, meaning I found a lot of people like to work from home. I find it very difficult. Like I did it for a while, but even having a separate office in my house, I still find it difficult. I need a separate location to go to. And that has made all the difference for my business as well. It's like I have my house where I kind of have a rule with myself. Like if I have to do something, I'll do it. But I have a rule like once I leave the office, no more work. Like now I'm at home. Now it's like relax, regenerate.
It's anchoring a location and an activity, and it's really powerful. When this whole coronavirus thing happened, I had a really difficult time the first couple of weeks because I had really strong anchors. I have one cafe in which I would only work on my book. And then
Yep.
I had a co-working space where I would only work on one business, and there would be like my home where I would only do, for example, if I look at my laptop, I would only do like personal development type of stuff, or like friend calls. And
Yeah.
when the Corona thing happened, the lockdown, the quarantine, I was like at my home, and I was like, I know that I shouldn't be doing any work here. And I had a really tough time, kind of breaking that anchor between the place and the activity. But it was so powerful. I was just killing it and crushing it in every place.
Yeah, no, dude, it was hard for me the first couple of weeks too. I actually drove all the way from Miami to Pennsylvania, 18 hours straight. It was crazy. And then I was working from home, and like it's my brother, my mom, and dad. And honestly, I mean, it's amazing being there. Like I love it. I love being with my family, but it's just not. It's not the energy of work. You know what I mean? It's more of the
Mhm.
energy of like, oh, let's all be together. Let's have a meal, like family time, like what you would think. So I realized really quickly after like 2 or 3 weeks of working at home, I was like, all right, if I'm going to be up in Pennsylvania during this whole Corona thing, I need to get an office. So that's where I'm at right now. That was the like first investment I made. I was like, I'm buying an office or like renting an office. And it's
It's
made
worth it's
such a
an
difference.
amazing
Yeah.
investment. I'm living in a nomadic lifestyle. Every place where I live, I try to book a co-living space. I
Yeah.
literally it increases my productivity by a lot, so it's a massive investment.
Yeah, yeah. So health, and because I think sometimes our mindsets, especially when people are first starting out and they're like very on like a shoestring budget, they're always doing the cheapest thing, right? So it's like work from home, right? So then you just pay rent and you don't have to pay two rents like on an office. But I can tell you just from the investment of getting the office, I've made so much more money from
Yeah.
having that other space. So I don't know. I know it's more money, but try to think of like what value could that bring to your life, and stop. I don't know. I just think a lot of people are in that mindset.
Yeah, when you're broke, it's really difficult to
It
make the
is.
connection
It
when
is.
it's
It
like, I'm
is.
living on Roma and then you're telling me to like
I
go
know.
to
I
an
know. It
office.
is. It is.
But I literally did that, when I was broke. I got like a WeWork membership in San Francisco, and I was just going there, and I wanted to be surrounded by people who work.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of lost. I just wanted to be in the environment where people are in front of their computers doing productive shit. And that was really powerful to me, especially as I was going through like a little bit more of a difficult time in my
Yeah.
life. Just going to a
100%.
co-working space consistently, that was beautiful.
100%.
Any other things you do? Do you travel? Do you fly around the world?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I did a lot of travel when I was 20. Actually, right before I dropped out of school, it was kind of my sign off. So that last semester, I studied abroad, and I did like something like 15 countries or something in Europe. So I went all over Europe, and then I actually went to Africa. That was probably the biggest
Where do you go?
mind opener. Morocco. So I found this flight. I don't know if it's still like that over there. You might know, but there was this airline Ryanair, and I found a flight from Madrid, Spain to Morocco round trip for like $12 or so, like 12
Oh
euros.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
dude,
it's
I'm
still
going
there.
to Africa. Yeah, like I can't not go now that I know it's
Did you go to
$12.
Marrakesh?
Yeah, yeah. So that's where we went, and then we were there for a week, I believe, and then we did a tour to the Atlas Mountains and the Sahara
Mm,
Desert, and we actually spent a night in the Sahara Desert in like tents and stuff. It was wild.
that is wild, man.
Yeah, and
It,
it's cool. I reckon everybody. I mean, you know this the best. Like, dude, traveling, it really opens you up, because if not, you think the whole world is like your small town, and it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a big knowledge thing. Really
how
helps.
did it open you up?
Um, I think it just really showed me that I was like, whoa, like it was a culture shock. You know what I mean? Like, I was in Africa and I was like, wow, this is like different living. And I don't mean to say it was like bad by any means. It's just so different. I was like, it definitely made me grateful. and it was beautiful, but like the living standard of that area was, it's a lot lower. So, but it's good to like, I don't know. I feel like it like brings you back to your foundation. It was like kind of good to like see what just all the opportunity of like ways you can help and things. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It just opens you up. You go to Ireland, at the time when I was 20, I would still drink from, here to there. And I was in Ireland, and it was that whole culture, dude, at least in Dublin, Ireland, they're all just drinking all the time. Like, it's crazy. Like, and it's just like, it's fun, like new adventures. It expands your mind. That's what I'm trying to get. Like, it really just shows you how much different stuff on this earth there is. And really one of my goals is to step foot in like every city in the world. That's one goal that I have. I want to do that.
I think there are like a million cities in the world, my friend.
Dude, I want to do it. Let's do it.
Go.
Let's start today. Flights are cheap.
They're not, man. Right now, they're not. I was looking for flights outside of Argentina, so the airport is locked down until September 1st. And I was looking at the first flights in the month. They cost like $8,000 to go back to Europe for economy.
Oh, really?
Or something like that. Yeah, I would have a harder time.
Wow. So I'll tell you, in the US, they're cheaper right now. I'm actually to get like all my podcasts and stuff from my office down in Miami. I'm flying out next week for a few days to Florida. $49 round trip from Philly to Florida. It's normally
round
like
trip, man.
It's normally like $300. That's pretty average.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a good deal.
They got some subsidies or something. Do you have mentors?
Yeah, I still do. And actually it's something.
Why still? It's like a bad thing. It's like for people starting out.
Yeah, no. I didn't mean like that. I actually meant in a way that it's something I should be seeking out even more. But it was going back to kind of like what you said, where, you were like reckless and like making things happen when you were a little bit younger. That's how I was with mentors too. Like I was like, I was going after every mentor I could ever, I would do anything. And now it's like once I kind of hit that like freedom, like I was happy with where I was at, I kind of stopped doing that. And then as we continue to scale the business, I stopped even more. Now with the partnership calls, right? Like the Mark Victor Hansen guy, I hope he might become a mentor, to me, and that just happens naturally. But I guess I'm not as focused on it. And I actually, now that you brought it up to me, I'm realizing that I should be, because no matter what level you're at, whether you're at 7, 8, 9 figures, dude, there's always people that are, so yeah, I don't know. It's not on my mind lately, but now it is.
Yeah, something I discovered, somebody who also like hustled to get mentors. I was like really going out of my way to, to talk to crazy humans. And what I realized just a little bit later, I just became a little bit more intentional in terms of what questions I want to ask. And the questions I had, I either could answer them from the books that those cool people have written, because a lot of the things that if Elon Musk was in front of you, the odds are he probably has a video about whatever question you ask, right?
True.
And a lot of those folks that we admire, they already put out their advice, and for me that actually decreased how much I reach out to folks. I think mentorship is important, not only to get like a very specific advice, but also to have somebody look at your life in not as a snapshot, but as a kind of a movie, to see how you're evolving, if you're moving in the right direction, and seeing your progression, seeing what type of decisions you make. For me, that's been the most important thing.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's, regardless of how people feel about him, Ty Lopez, one of the things that he teaches that I like is 3 different levels. Is you should have, some people that are like above you, like they're your mentors. You should have a group that are on the same level, and then a group that you are a mentor to. And I think, I can't remember the percentages. I think they should just all maybe be equally balanced. But I like that, you know what I mean? Because it feels good to mentor others. And then obviously you want to have a mentor. And then usually the people that are like in your entrepreneur house, they're either at your level or a little bit above. So
You don't want
I
to be
kind
the
of like,
smartest person in the room. I think it's called like
yeah,
people before you, meaning that you were getting there, right?
yeah,
And then you want to spend around, I know, like 40, 50% of time with them. This is where
okay,
you should be hanging out. Then you need to have like, I know, 30% of your time spent with like people who are like with you, who are on the same level, who are going through the same process. And it's incredibly helpful to be around people who are going through the same thing, who are
mm,
in the same kind of in the same process. And then you have like, I know, 10-15% of folks who, who are kind of uh, below you in terms of the results you want to generate,
yeah,
and you're just giving back. You're connected with kind of the world, with the reality, and you can learn from those folks as well, just at different
oh yeah,
levels.
you definitely can. I actually have. I have an intern down in Miami, and he's been like teaching me because remember when you're that age too, like you were saying, you're so hungry. So like my intern, I've taught him so much, but like some of the stuff he does, like he did this thing like this. It was like 2 weeks ago. It was unbelievable to me. I didn't even ask him to do it. He did all this research on the industry, and he called it the Authors Unite Journal. And he gave me like a 20-page report of like all of our potential like top partners, all of our biggest competitors, and like just all this inside kind of not inside, but like all this information about the industry. And I knew, like a big chunk of it, but like the fact that he organized it all and put it, I was like, dude, like you're in it, man. Like you're just doing stuff to like learn,
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was cool. He was just like, yo, I made something I want you to check out. And I was like, and I kept
Do,
scrolling on the Google Doc. I was like, what the hell? This is like a book. Like,
Man, that's ridiculous. There's this idea of like people waiting for opportunities to happen. There's like, oh, there are no opportunities in my town. You are the opportunity for the people who can
yeah,
create opportunities for you. Like you, in a way, you are the one creating opportunities for others. Like that guy, if he's that hungry, if he's that committed, like for you, it's an opportunity to work with him because you can give him
100%.
projects. You can just leverage his skills, his expertise, his hunger, but it's on him to create that.
Yeah, it's definitely a win-win, 100%. And people, look, once you start to have momentum in your business, you don't, you can just like pay people. But in the beginning, like, look, if your business is doing okay, but you don't have a big budget for employees and stuff, like volunteers. Why am I blanking on the word? This is what happens when you do
Interns.
long interns. Nice. It's like I know the word. Where is it? So interns. But it's a win-win. That's what I mean. So like I remember when I actually interned under that guy for 6 months, the mastermind talks. And
Mm-hmm.
I did a bunch of like free work, you know what I mean? So as far as like sweat equity goes, like I don't know if I was getting paid hourly, maybe it would be $5,000 or something. But the value that he provided me for the free work was worth way more than $5,000. So, but then he also got some free work. So either way, I think an internship is a great dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for both parties.
Agreed. Yeah. For me in my businesses, I had a harder time with interns because
Yeah,
like I'd rather pay somebody qualified to get shit done and I don't have to
for
spend
sure.
my time than to have like somebody
I
who
feel you.
delivers medium level work and then you need to like, yeah. And then, like for me, my time is so valuable that it's
100%.
it's a lot easier to pay somebody to do it professionally. No questions asked. Yeah.
I agree. This one's a unicorn though, dude. I'll tell you, like I was like, dude, you're amazing. I
Yeah,
don't
if you
know.
have like a good process for like
Yeah,
picking good interns and having like good applicants, then it can work out really well. For
definitely.
me, for me, actually, one girl worked out really well, but that was it. I tried a lot. Trust me.
Yeah.
Trust
Yeah,
me.
yeah. And really you can find like just reaching out to local colleges near you. It's you'd be surprised how many kids are actually looking for internships. So it's really not that hard to find. But you're right, to like actually make it work and like have them deliver quality work. Now that you got to train them, right? So it takes time.
Yeah. No, totally. It's always everything is a trade off in life. So
Right?
it's
Dude, I was saying I'm like time or money. You choose. So
Can you tell me about how you plan your life and if you have
mhm.
any long-term plans for your life right now?
Yeah, yeah. So Yeah, it's one of the things I'd say I'm not the best at, because I live very much in the present moment. And I mean that in a way of just like, it's more just my natural time. Now, once a week on the Wednesdays is when I'll kind of do the planning, and a little bit on Sundays as well. Um, but as far as the long term goes, like I'm 28 right now. If I had to make a guess, I feel like 35, 40 in that range is when I'll have a real desire to like start a family, something like that. I
Mm.
know I want to have a family. I have come to that. When I was younger, I didn't.
35, 40.
I think so. Maybe it'll be 45. I don't. I like where I'm at right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I'm sure you, I'm sure you do with all the girls. Tell me this, man. Starting a family, when you're 40, which is, for a dude, it's a little bit easier. And knowing
Yeah.
that you optimize your like health, nutrition, like, did you get some of those like swimmy dudes frozen? It's like,
No, I should though. That's a good idea.
you should. There's this startup. It's called I forgot what's called. I'm blanking on it. It's ridiculous. So very, very innovative. What they do is they pretty much ship you a kit, and then they send you a return label, and it's
Yeah.
like a subscription model where they just charge you annually a fee.
Yeah.
So literally, you jerk off in the jar, then you ship it back, and you have it
This
for
is
as long as you
funny.
want. And it's not super expensive. It was like, I know, 400, $500, just the kit, and like 3 years of worth of storage, and it's $100 a year. Dude, that investment right now, like your swimmy dudes at
Yeah.
28 are way better than they're going to be at 45.
That's a
Eating
great
well,
point.
exercising, for sure, man. For sure. Like, do you want to get like Tyler, who is like really buff,
I'm
healthy,
gonna get Tyler now.
optimized? Yeah, yeah. You better get those guys.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's okay. I'll look at when you send me that then the name
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that.
I'll send you that.
Um, but yeah, it's really family and travel. Like those are my two, I guess, like main goals. And I actually one of the things I should do, like I didn't realize there was a million cities, but that makes sense that there's probably a shit ton of cities.
I just pulled it
But
out of my
oh,
ass.
you
I think
did?
it's like half a
Okay.
million. Yeah. Well, they're like
Okay.
towns and all that.
Sounds, yeah.
But to be
Yeah.
very honest, man, like, you probably do not want to visit all of that. Like, when you start, like for me, dude, I've been
True.
to 70 countries. I'm kind of sick of traveling a little bit. And I was like, all right, another place, another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's what I found because you create these environments that you have work and leisure, and when you travel a lot, you have to keep recreating that environment. So that's why it's like when I was younger, I traveled, but when I did that travel, I wasn't really like in business like that. That was actually before I dropped out officially. So like I
Mm.
was just like having fun really, and so I don't know. That's the only thing of why I don't travel as much because of I just get in these rhythms. And in Miami, I'm in my rhythm, and I don't know, but I want to more. So I think when I get a little older, family, kids, I guess it'll be even harder to travel then. That's what they say. But I
Do
don't
you
know.
have like a vision board for your life? Do you have anything that you want to accomplish? How
Mhm.
do you have like measurable goals, or do you stay in the moment?
I more stay. I did a vision board when I was younger. Again, when I was like 20, right? Like before I had momentum, I did all of these things, and then once I got momentum, I got caught up in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. It's in that word. And now I'm just like, but I should honestly like I feel like that should maybe even be like a quarter, like the self auditing, like every quarter or every half year, or maybe every year what's that long term like 20, 30-year projection.
Yeah,
But I will tell you this, I'm not very tied to money, although I do think it would be cool to be a billionaire. But
it'll
I
be
just
it'll be kind of cool.
it would be cool, but I'm not like tied to it. And I've actually sat down and thought about this. I believe I have it in me to do 100 million. That as far as like an actual specific, like I believe I have it in me to do $100 million. A billion, I'm not yet convinced, but it would be cool.
Well,
So,
hang out with a bunch of billionaires and see
I
what they
know
do.
that maybe I
Yeah, dude.
would.
Well,
So
right now it seems like you're doing a lot of partnerships. If you do
yeah,
any investments, that this can be a pretty good path.
yeah, definitely. And that's Oh, we might talk like the partnerships is what built my whole business. So for anybody, it's an amazing way to build a business. It's just through like scaling partnerships. It really works.
Hmm. Uh, kind of back to your goals. I want to see what your goals
Yeah,
are. Like,
yeah.
do you have any like any goal at all? Like right now, is it like on the wall, or it doesn't need to be. Some
Yeah.
super successful people I know. There's like fuck goals. I'm just going to jam and do my best and kind of see where the opportunities lead me to. Other founders I know who are super successful, they have like all of the KPIs they want to create pretty much for their lives, and they reverse engineer those back to the pretty
Oh
much
yeah.
what do I need to how many sales do I need to have today in order
Oh
to
yeah.
in order to
See,
get it.
yeah. So I
So there are two
don't. Yeah.
approaches. There are different approaches for
I'm
sure.
the first approach. That's probably yeah. I'm 100% the first approach. Like I just go, back to the going all in, and then when it breaks, I fix it. So it's like I have my calendar set to accept. I think it's like up to 60 calls a week or something, and normally I get like 50 or so booked. So you know what I mean, and like that's sales and partnership. So I just that's my and then I also my intern does that as well, and I have some other people on my team that'll do some calls. So it's really just like I just go as hard as I physically can. And then the outcome is always freedom and usually growth. But I like the other path. I wish I was more like that sometimes, but I'm just not. Like I'm not as like measured. I'm not as just like, oh, we need to make 400K this month or something. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And like, here's how we're gonna do it. I'm just like, if I have 200 partnership calls this month and like 50 sales calls, we'll probably make a few $100,000 this month. You know what I mean? Like we'll probably, and it pretty much always works out. Obviously, this Corona thing, the last month, me and sales dipped a little, but
Yeah.
pretty much every month, what I have in my mind, although it's not concrete, it happens just because I'm just driving. I'm just going.
Yeah. I
So,
think I think the beautiful thing to do would be to find a person who balances you out on that front. So an
mm,
eight-figure entrepreneur I was talking to yesterday, I asked him how does he do planning, how does he sell so many businesses and like crazy price points, and he said one of the key hires that he has is the operations person, and what that person does is pretty much they take the vision of that guy, and then they break it down into, okay, what do we need to do in order to
mm,
accomplish it. So having a good operations humans, somebody who think about numbers, who think about like reverse engineering vision to, okay, what actions does that vision require in order to uh, be actualized. I think that's the key. And if you're in a
I
position to
agree.
hire somebody like that to do your operations, dude, like honestly, you will not be sacrificing any
No,
of
no.
your ways of doing things. It will be complementing you, and you'll be just
I
more
think
more
you're I think you're exactly right, man. Because that's at a higher level. But I even say like without my virtualist, my strength is not like orderliness and structure. It's
Mhm.
it's actually more on the side of just having a vision and going towards it so powerfully with so much energy that things kind of fall into place. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you're right. Like that person could potentially be so much more valuable than like what their salary would cost. You know what I mean? Like that could be
100%. Yeah, yeah, for
unbelievable.
sure. Freeing up your time.
So
And man,
yeah,
you shouldn't diminish yourself. You've built the standard operating procedures, in terms of like
yeah,
planning,
yeah.
all that. So it's a lot of engineering, my friend.
I agree. You're right. You're right. And I think I guess maybe what I mean is like a person like that maybe would have saw it coming, whereas I just like let the truck hit me. And then I,
Mm.
die and come back and like, okay, we need a procedure.
Interesting metaphor.
Yeah, I don't know. So, but yeah, somebody that actually thinks like that, like normally,
Yeah.
they're very analytical. I'm more kind of like lofty, like woo,
Yeah.
like I'm talking to you.
I feel you. And to be
So,
honest, like those people, because I try to have a really good balance in my life. I used to be like a little bit more kind of strategic, numbers oriented, trying to do all that stuff. And I'm trying to have a little bit of a balance of a person who kind of takes a step back and looks at kind
mm,
of the vision and and all of those things, and I help kind of break it down and see how it can be turned into reality. But I
Yeah.
think the important thing is to be asked the right questions, like even having the presence of a person who's going to ask you, and how do you plan to make $1 billion? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I need to have, okay,
Yeah.
we'll need to do a publishing company. We need to have like 100, New York
So
Times
true.
bestseller.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's so true. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm just like I'm like an energetic like that. And I already said that, but I'm just like energetically. I'm like I feel like I can get to like I'm confident about 100 million, but 1 billion. I'm not energetically. I don't know how it would work. But yeah, having a person like that, well,
yeah,
they could be like, look, if you can get to 100 million with the right investments, and the right structure, this is how you could potentially get to 1 billion, right? Like, so yeah, you need that person. You can only get so far without having both. And
yeah.
actually, there's a we probably talked about this guy, Jordan Peterson.
All right.
He talks about this with Steven Crowder on an interview. He says that most entrepreneurs are actually more, I forget what side of the brain it is. It's like more like left brain. So they're more like lofty, creative, and, like the entrepreneur, but most like CEOs are more like right brain, meaning that they're more just like, orderly and structured. So without both, the company cannot grow
Mhm.
to its highest, because you need that vision. You need that person up top being like, yo, this is where we can go. And you need that person that's running the whole thing to be like, okay, well, here's how we get here. Here's step 1, 2, 3. And I don't know. And he actually breaks it down though from a psychological level, like proving that you need both. Like it has never happened where you don't have both and the company gets to like Apple's level, like Apple or like Microsoft, like they all have both. So I don't know. I feel like this is an awakening for me. This is good.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll be your accountability buddy on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to text you in a few days. It's like, have you hired a coach? Have you read? There is this book called Clockwork. Maybe you've heard
Okay.
of it.
No,
The
I haven't heard of
Yeah,
that actually.
the concept behind the book is to make your business work like a clock, and in the way you
Okay.
just build systems, automate yourself, like keep an eye on the numbers, and stop being a slave to your business.
Yeah.
I've been doing research on this exact topic as I'm working on a digital program around the operations. So I'm just going
Yeah.
to share with you a bunch of resources that
Oh,
might be,
appreciate it.
yeah,
That'd be
that might be
awesome.
helpful. We're talking about like environment really influencing your behavior. Can you tell me who your friends are and who you hang out with?
Yeah, yeah. So down in Miami, I have a good little group. Actually, let me start and say, so right now down in Miami, I've been there about 4 years. So there's a group, it's called Epic Talks, that this girl put together. It's like the top entrepreneurs in all of Miami. So I
Hmm.
met, a lot of my friends through that group, and those are the ones that are more like my, like co-working type of friends. Like we'll actually, like I'll have them at the office interview. So that's pretty much the group. And then I still have a little bit of a wild side here and there. So those are usually the different, although wealthy, because I have friends down there that have like boats and yachts and stuff. So
Hmm.
that's when you go like all out. But I don't know. But yeah, that's really what I'd say. But also, in all honesty, it's a little. I've actually purposely kind of isolated myself there as well, so that I can just like focus. Because actually, what I found is in the entrepreneur house I was at, it was essential for that point of my life. But the point of the life I'm at now, I really like, just even in this office, you can see like it's very actually like plain and just
Hmm.
very big. Like it is just like a nice desk, nice chair, and a laptop. There is nothing else I can do in this office but work or like push-ups. Like that's it. Like, So when the only thing I can do is work, I will typically work. Whereas, when I'm at home, it's different. So either way, yeah, I'd say I have like a group. It's probably like 20 of us that are like our core, like Miami entrepreneur friend group.
So most of your friends are actually entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I'd say, yeah, I'm still actually good friends with my high school friends. I just
Hmm.
don't we don't physically hang out together as much because we're just into different things now.
Yeah.
but we still have those like childhood memories, and like there's still like catch up times, like every few months or something, or every half year we'll like have a little fishing trip or something like that. Um, so they're still in my life. I still want them in my life. Yeah.
That's the challenging part because as somebody who interviewed 1,700 people in 2 years and somebody who has like 60 calls a week, that's
Yeah.
so much social connection, so many interactions. You got to be very picky in terms of who enters your life, and especially on the friends
Ah,
level.
yeah.
How do you make those calls?
Dude, that's such a good question. And that is the thing that that's one of the things lately I've been working on my Wednesdays is I read this article that some psychologist put this together, or sociologist, I think. You can only really stay close with up to 150 people, like actually like really close. Like
Mm-hmm.
we literally do not have the bandwidth.
Tribe size.
Yeah. Like, so I started looking through basically, I know about 5,000, a little over 5,000 people, like personally, like I've actually spoken to, connected for like at least an hour. That's podcasts, partnerships, friends, all of it together. And what I started to do is go through them, and I started to create like my kind of 150 crew, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like picking favorites. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. Like, it's not like that. It's more like, what is the most valuable 150, not just for me, but you start to think about like humanity as well. Like once you got your own shit figured out, you start to think about other people's shit. So I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. So either way, I have a very good CRM. It's called Nimble. And in that CRM, I literally started to scroll through each person
Yeah.
and like look, and I was like, oh wow, like you might not know. Have you ever heard of Purdue Chicken? Have you ever heard
Purdue
of that?
chicken, no. What's that?
All right, so it's like a multiple billion-dollar company in the U.S. and it's like chicken, like they sell chicken. And either way, I I'm friends actually with the daughter of that company because the father died, so she has everything. Her name's Mitzi, Mitzi Purdue. And either way, I was just like, okay, like that could be a mentor, maybe. I mean, she's worth billions of dollars. Literally, I texted her like a few days ago, and it's just like natural, but I haven't really stayed in touch like that
Mm,
much. And I was like, okay, from a selfish standpoint, I should stay in touch with her, and I'm open to say that because
yeah.
it's like why not? So same thing with Mark Victor Hansen. 59 New York Times bestsellers. He should be in my top 150 from a
Yeah.
business standpoint. So I don't know. I've just how I do it is I've started to organize. Like this person is like maybe like a once half a year hangout. This
Yeah,
person is
and
like
Nimble has that function. Yeah,
yeah,
quarterly,
yeah,
weekly,
yeah,
annually.
dude. And you know what? It's funny, and I actually it feels I feel like almost bad like saying it because it's almost like I'm like talking about people as like numbers. But when you do get to a point of connecting with as many people as I have, you do have to organize it. Like there's no other way.
Yeah, it's
If
impossible not to.
Yeah,
And I think you mentioned like feeling a little bad about like kind of selecting, people who are going to be a part of the crew or not. At the end of the day, if you say yes to a good person, you say no to a hell yes person. And then knowing as many
I
people as
know.
knowing as that
Yeah,
you just can't. You just can't.
dude.
So you're literally like
It's awesome.
sacrificing. You're not serving yourself that way. And it's kind of unfortunate, but that's just how things are. Our time is finite, and you cannot maintain that many friendships. And on the
Yeah.
on the side of billionaires, mentors, that's the question I had. I was fortunate to know a number of really really successful billionaire entrepreneurs myself, and the thing is, if I don't vibe with them, I don't give a shit. Like, I really give no fucks about their
Yeah, yeah.
professional advice. Like, for me personally, I need to be connected with them, and yeah, for me, a social component, like feeling a person, being having similar values with a person,
Hmm.
that makes a massive difference for me. So for me, I would not want to connect with folks that have a lot of wealth, a lot of things I want to learn from, if I do not connect on the values level.
100%. I agree. You know what's so weird is the reason I actually texted her, Mitzi Purdue, a few days ago is because I'm up here with my family and I realized that in my house, he's very well known around here. My grandma has a picture with her father. And it's
No
hanging
way.
in my house. and not, they weren't friends, but like she met him because he was
Mm,
very well known. And my mom was like, yeah, that's Mr. Purdue. And I was like, Purdue. And I was like, because when you interview 2,000 people, I've honestly forgotten some of the people. I'm
I
sorry,
can
but
imagine. Yeah.
it's just true. So like I look back, I'm like, I know Mitzi Purdue. I think I have her number. And then I texted her, and she was like, thank you so much. That means, and now she's actually coming on the podcast again in like 2 weeks, and keep the relationship going. So I don't know. Yeah, you have to. And I like that you said that, because that was one of the lessons I actually learned in San Diego, from this girl that I was actually with. She told me, she's like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. That's the way to look at things, because there's so much opportunity. And if you say yes to all the maybes, then you're not leaving room for the hell yeses. And if you can think of life as just hell yes or no, it makes it easier. Now, it's not easy, because it's a tough decision to like look at
Yeah.
somebody you've been friends with for 20 years and be like, yo, dude, you're going down a bad path. I'm not. I don't want to be your friend anymore. And you're like
Yeah.
30 years. So it's not easy, but it's necessary, actually.
Yeah. I've heard that specific statement like over 100 times for sure. And I
Yeah.
don't always turn that into a practice because
Yeah,
it's very uncomfortable.
it
And
is.
and also sometimes what I would do is I would create space. I would say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to hang out with like 10 people instead of 150 people, right? And then I have
Yeah.
all of the space that is available, and it would just be kind of open, and then at some point a bunch of good people will start slipping in
Hmm.
alongside with the hell yes people. So it's not as easy to put into practice, at least in my experience.
No, it's not. And actually, I should say that I haven't fully put it into practice. Like I'm just like, I just really started recently, right? Like organizing at least that like 150 group. That was recent. I'd been organizing my contacts though for probably the past like few years. I got pretty serious about it, um, because I just think your network is your net worth. I do think that things are viewed. Now you have to have something of value to offer, but it just kind of hit me. I'm like, dude, I networked with over 5,000 people, like connected with them, like on
Hmm.
like, I would say not like not as deep a level as this, everybody, but at least like an hour conversation. Like we know each other like at a level. So I'm like, dude, I want to know what they're up to. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
Hmm.
sure. Like I want to like, so that's what I did with all my podcasts. I actually started doing that. The people that I interviewed like 2 years ago, I sent them an email and was just like, hey, hope you're doing well. I did it like 2 months ago. Hope you're doing well. It would love to reconnect if you're open to it. Here's my schedule link. And I had like a few hundred people
Yeah.
just like book call with me, and I was just like, yo, like what's new? Like what's new?
Yeah, that's really cool that you're doing it. Optimizing relationships is something
Yeah.
that is going to be kind of a chapter or a sub-chapter in the lifestyle engineering book, that I'm writing about,
Yeah.
because happiness
That's
happiness
cool.
is also about the quality of relationships that we have in our lives. So
Definitely.
it's amazing. It's amazing what we were able to uncover, and hopefully I'll do my best to get on that 150 person list. I'll
Oh,
really
you're already
try.
on it. I was going to tell you that.
Fuck
You're on
yeah.
it.
All
You're already
right,
in.
man.
Yeah.
Same.
You're in
Cool.
nimble.
Hell yeah. To wrap things up, do you
Yeah.
have any message that you'd like to share with the listeners? Anything else you haven't talked about?
Yeah. That I haven't. We've covered a lot, man. Not to repeat, I would just say that like no matter where you're at, how I've found success in my life, and I'm still growing, but how I found it is just really by trial and error. So kind of just like that take action thing and stop. I just think people get so much in planning, like they're always and planning's good. You should plan, but I just think you're better off just going for it, and then plan and then go for it. But so that's what I'd say. I would just say take action, because to hear that you dropped out at ninth grade is like,
That's right.
fucking baffling to me. Like that you even had the idea that that was even a possibility. Like when I was in high school, I was still like, I didn't even think that was even an option. You know, I was like, I have to do this. Like this is mandatory.
Yeah.
So I love that you, even at that level, you were thinking like, yeah, this world is mine. Like I can do what I want here.
It's not exactly how that happened. I wish that was that easy, But yeah, you were talking about how like you were kind of driven away from the corporate world, and for me, I was driven away from the people I was surrounded with at the time, like people who were just playing video games, dicking around, and I wanted to have the opposite of that. I wanted to have successes in life. I wanted to develop, grow, and there was another situation as well that I'll not have time to cover. That one to make you say, okay, I'm out.
We ran out of time.
Yeah,
no, that's fair.
But man, it was a super fun conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground. I really felt like I got to know you on this call, which is really beautiful. Thanks for showing up the way you did. And how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say Instagram is probably the best way just to connect. So it's Tyler B. Wagner. And then if you're interested in the book stuff, it's authorsunite.com. There's the plug.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.